In 1971, a brash 21-year-old centre-forward came north to Tyneside. In another inspired Harvey transfer deal, the era of Supermac had arrived, and in style.
The opening Saturday of the season, we were away at Crystal Palace and we got beat 2-0. On the following Wednesday, we were at Tottenham and we drew 0-0. Things were starting to get a bit better. And then on the Saturday, we were at home to Liverpool. And it was one of the most fabulous atmospheres that I have ever experienced in my time in football, and certainly it was the best that I'd ever experienced up to that moment in time. And I remember that we got the penalty. I think it was David Young who had been taken down. We were already a goal down from an Emlyn Hughes shot, and that was the chance for me to not just break the ice, but to create the rapport with the terraces. There was a silence booming out from the terraces, and I realised as I put the ball on the spot that this was one great, glorious chance to make it with the people of Tyneside. And all of a sudden, the crowd got behind the sides, and I watched the side, the chests expand, and they became much better players. And we played some great stuff and got to a position of 3-1 up. I happened to score another couple of goals, but they were good all-round team efforts.
McDonald with the chance to make it that. There it is! And McDonald scores his second. Tudor going forward in the middle. Now McDonald, chance! Oh, what a goal! What a goal! It's a hat-trick for McDonald. I
felt that I understood then what Tyneside was all about. It needed somebody to stick the ball in the net, and it thrived on that. And of course, I in turn thrived on actually doing it for them.
Tudor, McDonald, it's in! Howard missing that chance, couldn't quite get to it. It's McDonald who got it in. So Barraclough going over then to take this corner, the first of the second half. And it's in, and Malcolm McDonald has done it. Intercepted by Hibbert. Martin in a bit of trouble here, expecting the whistle, I think, and Hibbert going on with it well, sending Latchford the wrong way. Good football by Hibbert. There's McDonald, and there's his goal.
Tony Green had been signed from Blackpool to supply McDonald's ammunition. His midfield brilliance was to earn him a popularity that extended far beyond the modest total of 33 league games he played before a knee injury cut short his career. United fans had hoped for rather more success than the Anglo-Italian Cup, which the team won after surviving a near right in the opening round. Terry Hibbert was in inspired mood when a brace of John Tudor goals against Roma didn't go down too well in the Italian capital,
including the 26th-minute free kick that Malcolm McDonald headed on for John Tudor to score goal number 1 for United. Great start to the match, and there's Hibbert again, busily probing, as always. That effort flashing wide. But for sheer defensive thinking, how about this lineup to a McDonald free kick? All 11 Roma players in the 6-yard box. But their defensive tactics didn't do them much good, for in the 77th minute, McDonald fastened onto a back pass by Scarratti, and although the keeper made an attempt to reach the ball, it ran on for Tudor to hammer home Newcastle's undoubted superiority. Command of the game that might have brought them 3 goals had Tudor's brilliant shot here not bounced to safety from the post. Roma, defensively minded from the start of the game, got few chances to shine. Newcastle well on top.
But in 1974, an uncontrollable section of the Leazes End nearly knocked the club out of the FA Cup by themselves. Newcastle had battled their way through to the 6th round, but when Nottingham Forest took a 3-1 lead at St James Park with a disputed penalty, it was just too much for some so-called fans.
And the crowd up behind there are Forest supporters, erupting And now here come the fans. This is what they wanted to do all the time. Newcastle fans rioting out onto the pitch, a terribly dangerous moment for the players themselves now. As they charge down the field, these Newcastle supporters to where the Forest supporters are behind the other goal.
When the crowd was cleared, Newcastle turned the game around to win 4-3, but the FA declared the result void. Yet after 2 more games, Harvey's team finally overcame Forest and earned a Hillsborough semi-final against Burnley. It was to be one of the classic days in the club's history.
All the players off the field.
Burnley in the first half absolutely murdered us, and we were penned inside of our own area and found it very difficult to get out. And the second half started off quite similarly to the first. And Hillsborough had this incredible bank behind the goal that we were defending in the second half, and it was just full of black and white, just going up into the clouds, and they started to build up and get behind us, and it started really with a long ball out from Terry Hibbett that caught their defence napping, and I was able to get through. And once we got a goal ahead, then Burnley, they wilted, they crumbled, and we started to turn it on. And of course, when Newcastle did turn it on, we were something quite special.
Really springing into this game. MacDonald is away. Morgan is pulling him down. Still MacDonald. Straight at the goalkeeper. Still MacDonald. And he scored! Malcolm MacDonald! Super Mac has scored! To Newton, dinked in once more. Fletcher is in there. Moncur won that well in the air. Schroeder got it away to Hibbett. MacDonald is on ahead. What a ball there by Hibbett. And away goes MacDonald again. And that's a magnificent goal. That is number 2. And that is the killer goal. That was the ball by Hibbett. And that was a magnificent ball. MacDonald doing the rest superbly.
Not only a great victory, but achieved in great style, a display that reflected the manager's unique character.
I think the best way I can explain Joe was after we had beaten Burnley in the 1974 semi-final at Hillsborough, the agent that was handling the sort of the press agent, he sat down with Joe on the bus going back to Newcastle. And he said, right, Joe, he said, I'd like to get your opinion on all the players. He said, tell me about Jimmy Smith. He's a bloody good player. Tell me about Malcolm MacDonald. He's a bloody good player. Tell me about Terry Hibbett. He's a bloody good player. And that was basically Joe's philosophy. Put as many bloody good players into the 11 as you possibly can. And if you might not win things, but by heavens, you're going to create a very entertaining time for all the supporters. And we might not have won things, but I think that we were one of the most entertaining sides in the country at that time. There were games where we could be awful, absolutely awful, and then for some unknown reason, the very next game we would be so good that we were virtually untouchable, and we were just as likely to lose 5-0 as win 5-0. But I think some of the football that was played during those 4 or 5 years was tremendous, and it was all down to Joe enthusing about good players and saying to good players, be better, go out and do all the things that you know you're good at.
Yet on the big day itself, they did just the opposite. It was a total disaster.
And that's it! The backheader there by Toshak now.
I think it was probably some of the worst football that's been played in any cup final in this century. The first half was abysmal, and I remember coming off at half-time and saying to Frank Clark, and we were still at 0-0, amazingly. Liverpool had been almost as bad as we were, and I said to Frank, we've got to win this game because there is no way that we can play as bad in the second half as we did in the first. And this was the ridiculous thing about Newcastle. We actually went out the second half, and it was the worst 45 minutes of football that Newcastle had ever played in the time that I was that I was there. And I don't think Liverpool played that well, but they finished up taking us 3-0. And yet, on the following Monday, when we came back to Newcastle, the whole of the town was alive. There were 500,000 people in the streets, you know, and they were all singing our praises. And yet, it would have been the worst 90 minutes of football that I'd ever had in the black and white shirt.
The fluctuations of that Wembley campaign were mirrored the following season. But when Newcastle were up, they really were.
On his right. That's about 5 men up. Right there! Butterfly. McDonald. This is 5, surely.
The fans' only taste of success came in the Texaco Cup, a somewhat less than 4-star competition which the club won for the second year, overtaking Southampton, who held a single goal advantage from the first leg.
Clearance by Blythe, but more upwards than forwards. Tudor's header. Bruce. Always a possibility that Newcastle will be able to catch Southampton stretched in these situations. Tudor pulled across and Cannell!
The real prizes, though, were still at arm's length, but there was always the consolation of the striking power of MacDonald and John Tudor.
It's there! Tudor! Kennedy, the man who started the goal rush, to take it. And it's a goal! Tudor has scored. And Kennedy. McDonald. It's there. Burns. Tudor. And he's done it. Number 7, Burns. McDonald, 2-0. There's McDonald, Smith, Tudor scored.
At the end of the 1975 season, Joe Harvey finally called it a day after 13 years in charge. If Harvey was one of United's best-loved managers, his successor was surely one of its most controversial.
Tudor, once again, showing himself the supreme.
And I believe that as the manager, I have a duty to give them sweat, to give them blood, and to be quite honest, I would die for the club that I work for. And the very least I expect from all the players is the same. And that I expect all the players, whether they be whatever club I work for, to give everything the same. And that only the players that will give 100% will satisfy me, you know, and if they give 99%, then they will find me a hard man.
Gordon Lee may have won promotions with Port Vale and Blackburn, but by Tyneside standards, he was too much of an unknown. Lee might have lacked Harvey's unique style, but the hostile feelings his time at the helm aroused among many supporters have often masked the fact that his first season produced some spectacular performances.
Players being beaten by the wind so often. Ball was blown away from them. Now Kennedy. And some Surely, yes, Gowling. Once again, Cassidy with the throw. Gowling, it's a goal! What a lovely goal and another great start. MacDonald joining the ball. No, not MacDonald, Cassidy. And it's the third goal, fourth goal. And that a beautiful header by Nolte, moving in, we think, quickly taken by Burns to MacDonald. Gowling, wide.
In 1976, Newcastle had Wembley in their sights again, this time with the League Cup. In the semi-final against Tottenham, it was Gowling who cancelled out Spurs' first leg lead.
And there was
Gowling races onto a ball, rounds Pat Jennings and side-foots it into the net. A superb move. Newcastle started the second half as they had the first on the attack. Here Nolte forces McAllister to concede a corner. And from the flag kick, Glenn Keeley jumps high and heads Newcastle into the lead for the first time on aggregate. This is the third goal, slack marking by Spurs as Cassidy slots the ball through superbly to Nolte, who's plenty of time to score.
There was to be no Wembley humiliation this time, but no silverware either. A far better performance than against Liverpool, despite key injuries. But Manchester City still had the edge.
Yes, it's there by Peter Barnes. Played now for MacDonald, onto the right foot. Gowling is there. Got Barnes outside him. Donaghy prepared, though, to float it in towards Tommy Booth. Oh, and what a goal!
An honourable defeat and yet another tumultuous welcome home. The fans were still in a league of their own. The new manager had given them their share of entertainment. But before the new season started, Gordon Lee made the one decision for which he'll never be forgiven. It was seen as the ultimate treachery. He sold Supermac. In typically unpredictable Newcastle style, though, the team never looked back. Lee and his side, with no stars, had rocketed to third place in the First Division.
Good one! He's done it! 2-2! Oh, what a goal!
Then, just as unexpectedly as he'd arrived, Gordon Lee bailed out. He quit for Everton, leaving behind complete turmoil.
There were a lot of people that may dislike me. And I think perhaps the people that do dislike me are the people that, if I say things which I believe to be right, then it might hurt people. But likewise, it comes back to me and that. But I think that in any football club, there's got to be a certain amount of unity. And whilst we did have our differences of opinion in the boardroom, we had them in the playing with the players as well. But by and large, you know, in their way, they love the club, and I'm quite sure everybody else loves the club. And I only hope that the future's good for them.
It was the players themselves who took the lead in who should succeed Lee.
Local lads who've probably been at Newcastle United the longest. We're a little bit upset.
They threatened a walkout unless the job went to a former school teacher and coach, Richard Dinnis. Player power eventually ruled after a sorry episode that did nobody's image any credit. But the team carried on Lee's work as Dinnis took Newcastle to 5th in the league and back into Europe with the UEFA Cup. In August 1977, Dinnis's team kicked off the new season in encouraging fashion against Leeds United.
Oh, a great one and a goal! And it's scored by Mickey Burns. Teed up. Great, now Kennedy. That's the second goal! It's James Park Raw at the last minute, trying to snatch the winning goal.
But that victory was followed by 10 successive defeats. And when the European bubble burst, Richard Dinnis too was on his way out. The board made sure the players would be put firmly in their place this time. They sent for a hard man in Bill McGarry, a former Wolves manager with an uncompromising reputation. It was hardly a choice to capture the disenchanted fans' imagination. But even McGarry's tough line could do nothing about United's headlong plummet back into the second division. It was even a season that marked the passing of the Lees' end, the favourite haunt of generations of diehards. Morale was rock bottom.
The ball pushed out.
McGarry's rebuilding process saw him bulldoze his way through the existing squad and relay a completely new foundation. By far his most successful deal saw Peter Withe move north from Nottingham Forest for £200,000. It was a number 9 signing any United manager could boast about, as the extrovert, wholehearted Scouser proved a real crowd pleaser.
That was a clever one. Hooping it away. Oh, and now a chance for Withe. He scored it.
Chance for the shot, perhaps. Withe! Resumes now with Hibbett.
Withe, and that's a goal from Peter Withe.
This is Peter Withe. There's a chance here if he can get his shot in. And that's number 4. And Peter Withe puts the lid on it for Newcastle. Not all McGarry's signings were so successful, but equally popular was Alan Shoulder, signed from Northern League Cup fighters Blythe Spartans. A former pit worker, he soon hit a rich seam of form, digging out the chances alongside Withe. Newcastle United get the second half underway just as they got the first. Hibbett with the corner. Bohm deep at the back of the box. Withe. Well, that one's going to fall for Hibbett, will it? Yes, he wins that tackle well. Martin still. Yes, Shoulder! It's aimed towards Shoulder. Shoulder with a chance to lob. Oh, that's superbly done by Alan Shoulder! By McGarry's third season in charge, he looked to have got it right. When they beat Orient in January 1980, they were top of the table and heading towards promotion.
It's there!
But Newcastle collapsed in the most dramatic fashion, winning just one game in the last 16.
Poskett! Blissett!
And to make the disillusionment worse, Sunderland pinched a First Division return.
A disaster for him, a disaster for Newcastle. But really, they're only themselves to blame for the way they opened up for Watford then.